I have believed for a long time that integrity is at odds with adolescent development. The loss of innocence, the notion of coming of age, or as that song just put it, all of this baked up in a beautiful pie. As I shared with your children at convocation this fall, if integrity is wholeness and being true to oneself, then we first must wrestle with the conviction of who am I before any child can achieve or practice integrity, if that's even a thing. The whole journey of high school is actually about exploring that question, discovering an answer, and then probing it and poking it and reshaping it for the rest of your life. The Bildungsroman genre, who am I, is precisely why Millbrook is committed to a generalist education, why we champion the liberal arts, the exploration of art and athletics, healthy experimentation, and why we beat the drum here of being a lifelong learner. So thank you. Thank you, mothers and fathers and parents and guardians, for partnering with us, for being here today, and being a part of your child's educational journey, this adolescent journey in which we guide these highly contradictory human beings, half child, half adult, half conformist, half rebel without a cause, half stuffy on the comforter and half monster under the bed. And I wrote this for my daughter. Through this mystical, magical moonbeam moment of being a teenager, credit Benson Bruin. And I mean this when I say it. God bless you as the parents of teenagers. God bless our teenagers. It ain't easy being one in today's world. And we have some pretty wonderful children/young adults here at Millbrook School. The state of the school is amazing, as the kids would call it. It's fire. I sometimes truly feel like I'm the luckiest head of school in the world, and so many people make efforts on a daily basis to empathize with me, and they say things like, this job must be so hard nowadays. And the truth is, sometimes it is, and most of the time it is not. What we have here at Millbrook is special, and all of the indicators that we have illustrate the quality of our work. There is healthy demand in admissions. Our annual fund continues to support 10% of our operating budget. This year, we have a $3 million goal, and I want to say thank you in advance for participating in our necessary annual fund. Right out here through the window, you'll see a huge hole in the earth. We have a $20 million boys' dormitory with 4 faculty homes attached. So far, we've raised $14.5 million of that dormitory. Thank you for those who have helped and those who will be helping. Our students are very well prepared for college when they graduate, and our adults are fully committed to a program that delivers upon the promise of our mission. All of that, and we get to do it here on the prettiest campus in the United States of America. We get to support your children and their growth, and I am indeed a blessed head of school. So thank you for supporting Millbrook and me. My biggest worry for our students and your children at the moment is that I think it's harder than ever to raise teenagers to be lifelong learners, productive citizens in a democratic society, strong, ethical, moral adults who learn common sense and develop an ability to hold skepticism and optimism in their head and their hearts. Which is why today I want to specifically talk about one more way that the world is dulling our senses and sensibilities of our children, something that's been nagging at me, a practice from which I confess too I have drifted. In the world of dumb phones and brain rot and work slop and shortcuts. I want to talk with you candidly today about reading. Elizabeth Bellin, are you here? Is she here? So Elizabeth Bellin, mother of Christina, who's graduated Millbrook School, and Grace, who's currently at Millbrook School, recently said to my third grader, Finley, she's 8 years old, she said, "You're moving this year from learning to read to reading to learn." And my worry is that schools and parents we're teaching our children to learn to read well. And we are now, as schools, shouldering the burden of reading to learn in a world that cares less and less about it. We need to care about reading as parents. And perhaps, I'll make the argument, this group of people needs to care more than me. You may or may not assume the following about me. I love to read. Reading has always been important to me, deeply important. I've loved it since a young age, and sometime in my teenage years, I began to see reading as a way of becoming a more thoughtful, powerful, persuasive human being. I don't know that I would describe the act of reading as pleasure or escapism, as many people do. Mostly, I think that reading can make a person stronger. It makes our minds more fit. Perhaps that's why I chose to be an English major at Middlebury College. And by the way, then at Middlebury, it was a snobby English major. It was Chaucer, Shakespeare, Milton, no American literature, too lowbrow. Okay? That was it. I went on to pursue a master's degree in English literature through Middlebury as soon as I began teaching at 22 years old. I met my wife, Erin, who's in the back, because we connected over school and music and sports, but we found a whole lot in common through books. Our wedding was literary themed. Books were our centerpieces. Our favorite quotations from our favorite authors were scattered about in frames. We have 3 children: Atticus, Harper Lee; Aurora, Roman mythology; Finn, Mark Twain. All are named after literary figures, so I hope I don't need any more evidence to give you. I do love to read, and somewhere along the way, getting married, more responsibility in my jobs, having 3 children, I lost touch with it. Not a total absence of, but a serious reduction. Sitting with a work of literature over a period of hours ceased to exist, except for on a plane or maybe on a vacation. I reduced reading to condensed news feeds, CNN's 5 Things, The Morning Brew, The Times Online. I still like to read all the best short fiction and nonfiction series and the best essay series, and I fade in and out of The Atlantic and Harper's and The Economist. In the past 3 years, I read almost exclusively nonfiction. Erin, my wife, calls these self-help books. Ways to develop as a professional and a parent, not ways to press the edges of creativity or infuse and inspire imagination, which may ironically be the best way to develop as a professional or a parent. And the farther I would drift away from the practice of reading, the harder it seemed to pick it back up. And this is not dissimilar, I know it's a double negative, from taking too much time away from physical exercises. It always feels monumental to bring it back into one's life when we let it go a little bit. Probably worst of all, and I'm not sure if any of you have ever had this feeling, but time with a work of fiction would make me feel guilty and lazy. Like I wasn't doing something productive for my work or for my family. And just spoiler alert, I'm a lifelong educator and I'm the head of this school. Right? So I want you to know that I'm not preaching from the pulpit on some mountain of books. I'm struggling with this too. And the painful reality is that I believe in reading as much as school itself, as much as family, and as much as God. So, last spring I made a personal resolution to renew my love of literature and reacquaint myself with books, what inspired me was also highly personal. One of my best friends is a man named John Hugo. John and I were college roommates. He was in my wedding. He is the godfather of my son Atticus. And unfortunately, John's parents passed away at too young of an age. John was forced to take over the family business. Are any of you familiar with towns on the North Shore of Boston? I just actually want to see hands. I'm going to just see who knows this area of the country. Thank you. This is good. So, John's parents owned 5 independent bookstores in some of the most affluent and educated towns in the United States of America. The River Run Bookstore in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Cabot Street Books in Beverly, Massachusetts. The Book Rack in Newburyport. The Spirit of 76 in Marblehead. The Andover Bookstore in Andover. These stores, they survived and somewhat thrived through all the threats back when we were in college. Barnes and Nobles, Borders, the Kindle, and even the early stages of Amazon, which, as a reminder, began as a bookstore and has evolved into almost everything except for books. Over time, slowly but surely, every one of John Hugo's bookstores struggled. Maybe Audible took some market share, Amazon for sure, but really it seemed that fewer and fewer people were reading, and John altered the identity of his stores as booksellers to become stationery deposits, clothing retailers, champagne bars, coffee shops. Indies, independent bookstores, could survive, and they do survive right now, but they do not thrive, which is why most are currently owned by hobbyists, not those who need to earn a living, to build equity in a home, to have an honorable wage, to provide for their children. Today, in real time, John has sold 2 of his stores. He has closed 2 of his stores. And then there was one. Agatha Christie reference there. The Andover Bookstore, the oldest bookstore in the United States of America. Founded in 1809, the birth year of Abraham Lincoln and Charles Darwin. And this store is holding on by a thin thread. It will likely not fold, but it will sell to someone who wants it and someone who doesn't need to make a significant profit. That, the independent bookstore state of purgatory, has inspired for me a resurrection of reading in my life, to promote it and to push it and to have you consider the benefits for yourself and mostly for your children. Many of you may have seen this statistic over the summer, that only 16% of Americans now read anything outside of work or school. That is, read for pleasure. That is astonishing. Most people do not read. If that isn't depressing enough, I'm happy to share a provocative article that has been circulating amongst our faculty, thanks to Elaine Lifter, entitled "The Dawn of the Post-Literate Society." It's by James Marriott. I'll send you all the link if you'd like to see it. Marriott makes the argument that books are dying. He points out statistics that show that any child born past 2008 will spend 25 years of their waking lives on a screen. He quotes Neil Postman's "Amusing Ourselves to Death," in which Postman writes, "What Orwell feared were those who would ban books, but what Huxley feared was that there would be no reason to ban a book because no one would want to read one." It's bleak, I know, and in some ways, none of this is a surprise. We have predicted this post-literate society for years. Pick up Looking Backward by Edward Bellamy, 1888. He writes, and I quote, "The village shops are connected by transmitters with the central country warehouse. To save expense, tubes will connect several villages to the warehouse." He satirically writes, "It might be 2 to 3 whole hours to receive an order, especially if you're staying outside in the country. And wouldn't that be rather convenient?" Unquote. That's 1888. Okay? None of it's a surprise. Pick up George Orwell's Has anyone read George Orwell's 1984 in the last decade? But you've read it. Okay? And I know we all need an Orwellian reference, like we need a hole in the head. It was published in 1949, which on a hunch is before most of you were born. I worry that people haven't picked it back up because the prospect of authoritarian societies, the reduction of language, the idea that 2 + 2 = 5, or war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength rings too painful to engage at the moment. Our kids are running around, and your kids too. You've heard this phrase. You know this phrase, 6-7? Okay. They're all running around, 6-7, they're tired of it, it's old, and they get annoyed with their friends when they say it again. I worry about that idea subconsciously sticking with our kids, as if 6 is 7 and 7 is 6. They are not. My 8-year-old daughter and I were doing math the other night, and she was adding 4 integers up, and she said, the answer is 24, and I said, no, the answer is 21. You know what she said to me? Tomato, tomato. It's like, no, this isn't how we pronounce words. This is math. I'm yelling at my 8-year-old in the kitchen. 21 is not 24. 24 is not 21. You get my point. Erosion of fact. None of it's a surprise. For 7 years as an English teacher, I taught a book called Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, published in 1950. And this is, I don't make anyone, I'm not embarrassing anyone, but just in your head, can you spell Fahrenheit? Do you know the significance of 451? Does it matter? So some of you might not think it does, I'm certain of that, but I think knowing how to spell and the significance of certain temperatures do matter. That should not be considered intelligence in our world. It should be considered common sense. And facts are the only way that we will have common sense and skepticism to discern what's real versus what's fake, which is precisely how we do not repeat mistakes of the past, and we create better futures. So I'll quote Fahrenheit 451, pages 54 to 56. I sort of condensed them a little bit. Motion pictures, radio, television, things, when they begin to have mass, books will be reduced down to a paste pudding norm. School will be shortened. Disciplines like philosophy, history, languages will all be relaxed. English and spelling will gradually be neglected. Finally, almost completely ignored. Life will be immediate, the job will count most, and pleasure will lie all after work. Why learn anything except pressing buttons and pulling switchboards? Technology, mass exploitation, and feeling happy will carry the day. And if you don't like a book or an idea, don't read it. Better yet, burn it. Unquote. So we knew this challenge would be upon us. And how can we at Millbrook play our part? How can you? What can we do about this? I think this is an essential question. It's simple. I think we, schools and parents, must commit to the developmental building blocks of learning. As we fly into the headwinds of AI, we need to find strength to be counter-cultural, to build authentic intelligence based in skill and content before we permit our students and our children to engage unguided and unsupervised with artificial intelligence. Everyone who has pushed me to embrace AI as a school head, to have 5 or 6 courses, to go all in, and to create learning around it and let the kids fully engage with it. They've come at this question and this suggestion from one angle: job markets and making money. They want an outcome. They are not persuading me from a lens of how to develop healthy, balanced, curious, collaborative, well-adjusted, morally strong, mentally fit, highly skilled children. The irony in front of us, I would contend, is that the children who stay off screens longer and away from the tempting shortcuts of the world will be smarter, better equipped, more prepared for the technologies of the future than those who are spending every waking minute on a screen. The spirit of the liberal arts, learning how to learn, Aristotle and the ancient Greeks identified this timeless approach to education, and I think it's never been more relevant than today. I'm stubborn about this, and I believe boarding schools and summer camps are more valuable than they've ever been. We have the ability to shut off the noise and the nonsense in the world, to build habits of mind, new normals, maybe even old normals, and then community norms all around it. So what can we do? Here's a list of 9 things that I think you can do as parents that I've been thinking out about a lot. And I knew that if I gave you 10, you'd forget them all. So I'm going to give you 9. Okay, so here they are. Read. Don't bullshit yourself. Read. Put your nose in a book. Model it for your children. Audible and your little dashboard summaries are fine. But read. Pull the book out. Give it time and attention. My friend John Hugo would say, and this is great, I love this nuance, read fiction at night. Let creativity and imagination fly, and give your chance a self to sleep, or give yourself a chance to sleep. If you read news and nonfiction at night, your wheels will turn. You will wake up at 3 a.m. and think about what you can do better at something. And no one needs that. Read news and nonfiction and all the self-help stuff during the day. Read fiction at night. That's actually why Grandpa over a cup of coffee would read the paper in the morning, not at night. I had a professor in undergraduate, this is 3, and graduate school named Stephen Donadio. He read so much and he seemed to retain everything. And his approach was to alternate contemporary and classic works. So flip-flop your fiction. Go backwards and go forward with what you read. And as Donadio would say, I always loved this about him too, A Little People magazine and Us Weekly are exquisite desserts. Make deer time. This is number 4. Do you know what deer time is? Anybody? Someone in here does. Thank you very much. Drop everything and read. Deer time. Reverend Cam Hardy, who retired last year from Millbrook School, worked here for 34 years. She would preach deer. Drop everything and read. Make it a family thing. And even if your kids hate you in the moment, they will. I promise you, they will thank you later. And when you do it, pull the plug on the server. That's what Jasper Turner does. Ask his kids how they feel about that. 5, model it. Props are powerful. Kat Miller, who teaches some of your children in English class, says, carry a book everywhere you go. Even if you don't get to it for months. The visual of a book in your hand will inspire others and will inspire your children. I still have just embedded in my mind when I was a child, my youngest brother was a very, very good hockey player, like really good. Like he played on Team USA World Juniors. He has the all-time record at Cornell for games played. Like he's good. He played probably anyway. At his games, with all these fabulous players, there was this one guy, Doc Maglione, who sat up in the top of the stands and he just read through every game. His son played at Princeton and probably does the great things in life. Doc read through, it could be overtime in the state championship game, he's reading. And I still have that image of Doc Maglione thinking like, wow, this game actually isn't about him at all. He's here, he brought his child here, he's playing out there, but he was in his own passive way making a statement. So model it, prop it. 6, read along with your kids. 2 of the books I read this summer were The Outsiders and a book called 2 Degrees. It's what my son's reading in the 8th grade at Dutchess Day School. Read along with them. Whether they're in 3rd grade or in graduate school, it allows you to ask questions and have good conversation with your children about something intellectual. It will give you something to talk about and you can further model it. 7, set goals when you have time. Let your cue be visible to your children. I have stacks of books around the house. They just see the spines and the titles, and I haven't gotten to some of those books over 2 or 3 years. But let it be visible to your children. 8, and I suspect we're near the same age. I want to give a shout out to what I think is the greatest educational movie of all time, and you need to rewatch this movie because it's about reading. It's called Good Will Hunting. Okay? Rewatch it and watch it with your children. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon did not win the Oscar for Best Screenplay because they were young and handsome. They won it because they wrote something absolutely brilliant, and it's more relevant than ever. It's all about the 3 most important tenets of education: reading, experiences, and relationships. That's what that movie is all about, and it's wildly entertaining. Watch it again. 9, write. You might not think of yourself as a writer. Write. Reading is writing, and writing is reading. It's a symbiotic and mutually beneficial relationship, and the best readers are good writers, and the best writers are great readers. My next talk will be about writing. Okay? The pen will be your sword. So my goal today is not to fill you with fear, even though we're in a world of dark statistics and maybe looming sentient technologies, AI, this dystopian novels like ringing too close to home with modern reality. My goal was simply to share with you what I think is most important and top of mind for me as the head of Millbrook School. And in some ways, I'm shocked that I am standing before you to offer something that you clearly see as self-evident, or you likely see as self-evident. What did John talk about today? I don't know, reading is good. Like, duh. But here, the excellence in education, the stretching of our own points of view, harnessing of imagination, it's found in the exercise of reading. So don't give up on it. I'm convinced that dumb phones are leading our kids to brain rot and work slop, and we must be optimists for our children. It's never too late to cut off the Wi-Fi and turn the reading lamps back on. After all, if we adults model it, it will be important to your children, and one can only hope it will be important to their children and their children's children. So before I stop talking and I take a few questions, I will end with a quotation from David Eggers. I was just sent this from a man named Von Rollenhagen. Shout out to Von Rollenhagen. He just retired, lifelong educator. He was the dean of faculty at Newark Academy in Livingston, New Jersey. He gave me my first big boy job. He hired me to teach English at 22 when I knew nothing. And on his classroom wall, Von had this quotation: "With art comes empathy. It allows us to look through someone else's eyes and know their strivings and their struggles. It expands the moral imagination and makes it impossible to accept the dehumanization of others. When we are without art, we are a diminished people. We are myopic, unlearned, and cruel." Thank you.